Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. So before I get into this video topic that was suggested by a viewer, I just wanted to briefly talk about something that is going to basically tie into the video in itself. So just wanted to get this out of the way and then get into our video topic. So covering the Cindy Glad-Do case kind of struck a chord with me. I've been kind of dealing with some stuff mentally, and it just kind of weighed on me a little bit, and I don't want to take anything away from her case, so that's kind of why I just wanted to take a breather and then come back and then do some topics videos, and then honestly do some more true crime, and then probably finish up her case. So the topic of this video is verbal abuse, and the viewer wanted me to talk about my experience with it, and then also kind of what I think personally is what I classify as verbal abuse. And honestly, I don't know what was worse, the physical or the verbal. Physical was easier, I personally think, to deal with. I know how that sounds, and I will explain that. Look, bruises and bones, they heal. But mentally, things stick. And again, not everything heals the right way from a physical abuse. That's not what I'm getting at. It's just, it leaves a different mark. Verbal abuse plays a really heavy area of mental capacity and ability to process and deal with things. You can't necessarily see it. It's mostly just dealing with it and healing with it. So what I went through was very degrading. So I was called horrible names, like a whore and the C word, and I was constantly told that I wasn't attractive, that I wasn't beautiful, that nobody was ever gonna love me, that I was basically just a wormhole, that I should kill myself, or they could kill me. And it was a constant thing that would go on. They would constantly threaten me or tell me that I should kill myself, and that I wasn't good enough, that nobody will ever love me, that I was a disappointment. And those are things that my abusers said. They also threatened me with, I don't know why I've talked about this in another video, but this always kind of scares me and makes me uncomfortable. But hey, so covering the Cindy Glad-Do case, you guys know that I kind of have a personal tie to it, not to Cindy, but the accused. I dated one of their sons, and one of his sons, I should say, and he ended up being an abuser along with his brother to me. And when the mind game started, so this goes with the verbal abuse, they would say that, I've heard what the father did or has been accused of, and if I didn't watch myself, the same thing could happen to me, type of thing. It was a threat and verbal abuse. And it's scary to kind of just sit here today, and as I cover the case, those flashes, come back to me, and where I was in those exact moments that they said those words. And it is very sickening to me to remember that, to process and go through that. And, I got all of that from my abusers, all the constant, like, degrading, basically. But the whole thing was that it wasn't just them. It was the school. The school and the teachers and the principals and the counselors, they would constantly tell me that I was a disappointment, that I wasn't good enough, that it was my fault, that I was asking for it. Whatever was happening to me, it was my fault. And I honestly classify that as verbal abuse. Like, you just don't constantly tell somebody that it's their fault, that they're the disappointment. And on top of that, my abusers are saying the exact same thing, that I will amount to nothing, that I'm a nobody. And it was like this constant reflection of like, oh, them and the school, right? And that would start to play mind tricks on me, that I would constantly tell myself that I wasn't good enough, that I had to constantly do better, that I had to push myself to the limits, that I had to just be better. And I know to some people, like, oh, you can just shrug it off, they're just words. There's this thing like sticks and stones. May break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's a load of bullshit. It's like, honestly, so full of bullshit that I can't even begin. Like, that just infuriates me. It's a silly thing that kids say and in songs, but in the end of it, it is bullshit, because words do hurt. They do have a lingering effect on people. And when you're constantly told to kill yourself, that you're not good enough, that you're a whore, you're trash, that you're nobody, that nobody's possibly ever gonna love you, that's verbal abuse. That is an assault with words. I'm sorry, but when you're threatening to kill somebody or having somebody do that to themselves, that's verbal assault, and it's not good. Because if you're constantly being told this, and even the adults in your life that are in your life for 7 hours out of, 5 days a week, constantly every day, that does play an effect on you. It starts to play these mental games on you, and you start to question everything about yourself. You start to hate yourself because you're starting to see what those people are saying to you, that you're not good enough, that you are trash, that the way that you look isn't beautiful, and when you're physically hurting somebody, you can feel the physicality behind it. You can feel the pain. You can see it. You can see the bruises. You can see the broken bones. But the verbal abuse, you don't necessarily see. Sure, you hear it. But then you just, at the end of the day, you have yourself. And you're looking yourself in the mirror. And you start replaying all those things that somebody is saying to you in your head. And you start to see it in yourself. And that is so cruel, because nobody can see that. Nobody can see the impact that has. That, the people that are saying it, they can laugh about it and then just walk away and be okay with what they said and comfortable. But then you're left with those words, and they eat at you until you're angry, until you hate yourself. And it is scary. It is honestly the most scariest thing, is to be trapped inside your own mind, believing these horrible, terrible things that these people are saying to you. People that you thought you could trust, adults. And then you have your abusers, a person that you once thought you loved, and then his friends telling you all of these disgusting and terrible things. And then, they have, the other effect is that, they try to blame you. Okay? And what I mean by this is a certain situation. My ex would come up to me or his brother or their friends and say, it's your fault that you made me angry. You made me say those things. I love you. I want to be with you. However, you need to change who you are. You need to do better in order to be with me. It's your fault that this is happening. So if you want to fix it, you have to fix yourself. You have to listen and do what we say. And, we love you or I love you. And you start to believe that that's love because they whip you down and tell you nothing. And the adults there are doing the same thing. And in a way, you start to believe it. You start to believe that you are this and they are your savior. And only they can love you. Because they say that. Only they can love you. I can only love you. Nobody else will ever love you. I'm the only one that will love you. And if you don't love me back, then you're going to be alone forever. You're going to be those terrible things. And it's a mindfuck. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. It is an absolute mindfuck. And that is the most frustrating thing, is when you're hearing about people that are in an abusive relationship, that there's not a necessary physicality to it, that it's verbal and stuff. And I hear people say, well, they could have just left. It's very easy. Like, just get up and leave. It is an honest, it pisses me off because they don't even want to sit there and listen to somebody who's been through it, kind of give their opinion on it. I'm being like, it sounds very fucking easy to just get up and walk away, to not believe them. But when you have been beaten down mentally and sometimes physically, and you are left to believe that only this person could possibly love you. Nobody else will love you for who you are, because you're this nasty human being that, everybody just sees you as trash, but they love you. And they only say those things because you make them mad. It's your fault. You feel trapped. And you don't believe your own thoughts and feelings because they make you feel like you're not important. And I know this sounds like, it does sound very easy to just get up and walk away. And I'm not going to say that I wasn't one of those persons or people, I should say, that's said that before I went through what I did. I necessarily didn't. I used to be one of those people that used to say, it does seem easy, but there's more to the story. And after I went through what I went through, there was definitely more to a story than they're just words, just walk away, just ignore them. It's a very fucked up situation when you get locked in your mind and you're in your own head and your thoughts, and you're constantly hearing these things. That you're unwanted, unloved, you're trash, nobody's gonna love you, but I love you. Don't forget that I love you, and you're nobody without me, because I am the one that gives you love. Nobody else loves you. That plays a mind game on you, a mind fuck. And it's the most terrifying thing, is because nobody sees it. Even when they confide in somebody, a parent, a loved one, a close friend, and they're telling you this, and on the outside, yeah, it seems very extremely easy to just get up and leave. But there's a deeper feeling, and lots of feeling, that the survivor is going through, or victim, as commonly, I hate that terminology, that the person who is suffering the abuse, there's such a deeper level and meaning. And of course, everybody deals with situations differently. So I'm not saying that this is for everybody, but it is a common, I'm not saying it's for everybody, but it is a common thing that, outside people say it's very easy to leave. But the person who is suffering the abuse, there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. And it is hard for people to understand that, well, why didn't you just walk away? Why didn't you just leave? And, it's hard because, there's this thing that some family members used to say to me, that I was raised better than this, when I was going through what I was going through, and, some of my actions weren't exactly, good. There was a point when my grades were slipping. I was a very angry person. I was told by people, I was raised better than this. You have to do better. And that also plays a thing on a mind game with you, because you honestly know, and this is also scary. You honestly know that it's wrong. It's honestly wrong what they are saying to you, whoever it is. For me, it was a lot of people saying that all these terrible things, that I'm a disappointment, that I'm unloved, unwanted, that I was trash, that, all of these things, that I should kill myself or they should kill me. And honestly, that those things are saying that they are wrong. It's wrong. And then you have people that, you love and trust and all that saying, they didn't raise you to be this person that you're becoming. And that this wasn't your, and that this is all wrong, but you just feel stuck. You just don't know what to do. You feel like your loved ones will never understand what you're going through, or they might not want to understand. And if you tell them everything that's going on, they're just going to say the same thing, that they didn't raise you to be this way. You have to be better. That they didn't honestly raise you to be abused, type of thing. And again, that doesn't help the situation at all, because like, hey, they raised you not to be abused. That they raised you to be a strong human being, and yet you're being beaten down verbally and physically, and you just don't know where to turn. And the people that are closest to you, they don't see it. They don't see it. They don't honestly see it. There might be some red flags, but they just don't see it. They just think that you're going down this dark hole, that you're becoming this stupid human being, basically, and you're making all the wrong decisions, and that's that. There's a lot more layers to it. Yes, I made some wrong choices that I have owned up to, and I didn't handle everything with grace. But when you're being abused, there is no handling things with grace, because you have no idea how to handle it, because you feel like you're so damn alone, and the words just keep eating at you, and it's hard. It is honestly one of the hardest things I've had to deal with, is the verbal abuse and trauma that came with it. Because on my worst days and on my dark days, all those things start coming back, that I'm a terrible human being, that I'm a disappointment, that I'm not being good enough. And it's honestly, guys, ow, 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 I should have sat like that. Oh, I have this split second. It's still to this day, in those moments that all those things start coming back and on my dark days, I had this split second of thinking, my ex was right. Those people were right. They are the only ones that could love me. I'm not good enough for anybody but them. And then it goes away. And, you know, that is scary. That is honestly scary to even think today that some of those thoughts come in. And I just think, hey, was my abusers right? And that is fucking scary, guys. Because everything that they said just comes swarming back and hits you like a ton of bricks sometimes. And there's no magic word that can fix it. There's no band-aid that you can put over it and it'll heal. It is those words that stick with you. And that is why I always say, try to be kind, you know, see from that other aspect. That, you know, our world is a very scary place these days. A lot of bad is going on, a lot of confusion, a lot of anger. But that doesn't mean that you can't do some good in it. You know, again, every situation is different. I'm not saying my situation is the same as Jane's down the street or Joe next door, you know. Every situation and every person who has dealt with either bullying or abuse, everybody deals with it differently and has a different story and a different takeaway from it and impact and trauma. And it's not easy to talk about or get across because there is a lot of people that will say it's very easy just to walk away. Though that's kind of like my impact of any, like my kind of statement for verbal abuse is any degrading or hurtful, mean, you know, that sounds childish, things that you say to a human being that you know that can impact horribly. Now, I'm not saying two friends can't joke around and be like, hey, you know, that dress isn't your shade or whatever, you know, friends can't joke around. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying people that constantly tear down human beings, that make them feel lesser than what they are, that's verbal abuse. When you constantly tell somebody they are unwanted and unloved and just garbage, that is verbal abuse. When you degrade a human being, that is verbal abuse. When you threaten, somebody's life, that is verbal assault and verbal abuse. It's tough, guys. It is honestly really tough to talk about. Because there is that other side that thinks that it's very easy to just walk away. Anyways, guys, that's my 2 cents on this topic. You know, there's a chance that I will break it down even further and dive into it. It's just a lot to dump into one video. And it is a heavy topic, so please be respectful in the comments. Remember, if you have any topics that you don't feel comfortable sharing in the comments below, my email is going to be in the description, so please send it there. Any case topics for true crime, please send to my email. I know a few have been dropped in the comments below. Just please be careful and be respectful. I would recommend emailing me, please, with those case topics. Again, email will be in the description below. And I hope you guys are having a good week. Remember, never give up, always keep fighting. You're enough and you're very much loved. Until the next video, guys, stay safe. And remember, you're very much loved. Love you guys.